Good morning, students. Today we are going to discuss about eosinophilic lung diseases. What is pulmonary eosinophilias? These are heterogeneous group of disorders characterized by pulmonary parenchymal or peripheral blood eosinophilia. Rise in eosinophil counts of pulmonary parenchyma or peripheral blood. It may involve parenchyma or airways. What are the functions of eosinophils? Plays a role in host defense, modulator of inflammation, and tissue destroyer. It kills the parasites, tumor cells, respiratory epithelial cells. It plays a role in chemotaxis by complement activation, release of inflammatory mediators like histamine, eosinophil factor A, platelet activating factors, leukotrienes, lymphokines, tumor factors, and interleukin factor 5. What are the normal eosinophil counts? Normal absolute eosinophil count is less than 500 per cubic millimeter. If it is 500 to 1500, it is mild eosinophilia. If it is 1500 to 5000, it is moderate eosinophilia. If it is more than 5000 per cubic millimeter, it is severe eosinophilia. This is the grading of eosinophilias. Mild, moderate, severe. 500 to 1500, 1500 to 5000, and more than 5000 per cubic millimeter. And also Ball eosinophil counts is also considered. Normally, eosinophil percentage of ball fluid is less than 2%. If it is more than 5%, it is rise. If we consider as rise in eosinophil count. In case of primary pulmonary eosinophilic syndromes, it is more than 20%. Rise of ball eosinophils is more than 20%. According to Loeffler in 1932, they identified as an association between pulmonary infiltrates and eosinophilia. In 1952, Reeder and Goodrich coined the term PIE, pulmonary infiltrates with eosinophilia syndrome. In coming to classification of pulmonary eosinophilias, Crofton and et al. In 1952, based on clinical criteria, classified eosinophilias as simple pulmonary eosinophilia, that is Loeffler syndrome, prolonged pulmonary eosinophilia, tropical eosinophilia, pulmonary eosinophilia with asthma, and polyarteritis nodosa. But nowadays, it is classified based on diseases associated with pulmonary infiltrates and eosinophilia are pulmonary eosinophilic syndromes of known cause, unknown cause, and other lung diseases variably associated with eosinophilias. What are the known causes of pulmonary eosinophilias? Parasitic induced, drug or toxin induced eosinophilic pneumonias, tropical pulmonary eosinophilia, and allergic bronchopulmonary mycosis. These are known causes of pulmonary eosinophilias. What are the unknown causes? Unknown causes of pulmonary eosinophilias are idiopathic acute eosinophilic pneumonia, chronic eosinophilic pneumonia, Chad-Strauss syndrome. It is allergic granulomatosis and angiitis. And others is idiopathic hypereosinophilic syndrome. These are pulmonary eosinophilias of unknown cause. Acute eosinophilic pneumonia, chronic eosinophilic pneumonia, Chad-Strauss syndrome, and idiopathic hypereosinophilic syndrome. The other lung diseases are asthma, allergy, bronchocentric granulomatosis, bronchiolitis obliterans organizing pneumonia, and the other fungal infections, tuberculosis, some ILD, some interstitial lung diseases like IPF, idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis, collagen vascular diseases like sarcoidosis, eosinophilic granulomas, and some malignancies, non-small cell cancer of lung, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, myeloblastic leukemia, and some other causes. All these are associated with eosinophilias. Coming to eosinophilic pneumonias with acute presentations. Acute means short duration, less than 1 to 2 months of duration, the symptoms onset. These are Loeffler syndrome, that is simple pulmonary eosinophilia, parasitic infections, drug and toxin induced pulmonary eosinophilias, and idiopathic acute eosinophilic pneumonias. All these are acute presentations. Coming to Loeffler syndrome, that is simple pulmonary eosinophilia. 1932, Loeffler first described this syndrome, characterized by mild respiratory symptoms, eosinophilias, peripheral blood eosinophilia, and transient migratory pulmonary infiltrates. These three are characteristic of Loeffler syndrome: mild respiratory symptoms, peripheral blood eosinophilia, and transient migratory pulmonary infiltrates. It can affect all age groups. It is caused mainly due to immune hypersensitivity to Ascaris lumbricoids. Loeffler's is due to immune hypersensitivity reaction to Ascaris lumbricoids larva. What are the clinical features? Mild respiratory symptoms, that is low-grade fever, non-productive cough, dyspnea, mild to severe, and occasional hemoptysis. It is less common. These manifestations are self-limited, typically resolves within 1 to 2 weeks. What are the investigations we order? Uh, it is eosinophilic lung disease. So rise in peripheral blood eosinophilia, moderate to extreme eosinophilia. Sputum contains eosinophils. Chest X-ray. Chest X-ray shows transient migratory. These are migratory infiltrates. If we take an X-ray today, the patch is present in one area of the lung. If we take another X-ray on another day, it is not present in that area. It is present in another area. That is, those are migratory infiltrates. Non-segmental, interstitial, and alveolar infiltrates. All the eosinophilias are commonly interstitial or alveolar infiltrates, and peripheral or pleural based. PFT, mild to moderate restrictive ventilatory defect with a reduced diffusion capacity of carbon monoxide. Loeffler syndrome may present as bronchopneumonia or miliary nodules. Ascaris infection, parasitic infections sometimes present as miliary mottling. These are millet nodule deposition. This is the CT scan of a person with peripheral eosinophilia. This is peripheral patchy subpleural involvement. Peripheral patchy subpleural involvement of the infiltrates. Then coming to drug and toxin induced pulmonary eosinophilic syndrome. This is also acute or subacute presentation. Onset is acute or subacute. The respiratory symptoms may vary from mild illness to severe respiratory failure. Radiographic findings are non-specific. Interstitial or alveolar infiltrates are typical. CT shows ARDS-like picture, bilateral consolidation and ground glass opacities, both of which are frequently peripherally located and also associated with skin rash and pleural effusion, characteristic of drug-induced eosinophilias. These are mainly hypersensitivity reactions. So, skin rash may be associated with drug-induced eosinophilias and pleural effusions. Prognosis is favorable in most cases because of elimination of exposure to drug or toxin leads to resolution of these symptoms. Corticosteroids not generally prescribed but may hasten the recovery in ill patients. These are the some of the common drugs causing eosinophilic pneumonias. Those are acetaminophen, that is paracetamol. Acetyl salicylic acid is aspirin, and amiodarone, bleomycin, captopril AC inhibitor, carbamazepine anticonvulsant, phenytoin, penicillamine, gold salts, ibuprofen, and some sulfur-containing drugs. These are some of the drugs. Thiazide diuretics. They may cause eosinophilic pneumonia. Coming to idiopathic acute eosinophilic pneumonia. Acute. What are the acute causes of eosinophilic pneumonia? As we discussed already. Loeffler syndrome, drug or toxin induced eosinophilia. This is another idiopathic acute eosinophilic pneumonia. Idiopathic means causes unknown. It is commonly seen in younger age group, approximately 30 years of age. Occurs commonly in previously healthy persons as well as seen in persons with immunocompromised state also. What is immunocompromised state? With history of leukemias, HIV infection, recent commencement of smoking, involvement in unusual activities like cave exploration, plant reporting, indoor renovations, etc. What is the diagnostic criteria for acute idiopathic eosinophilic pneumonia? Acute is acute onset of illness. Patient presented with acute onset of febrile respiratory manifestations. Those are less than 1 month duration before consultation. Idiopathic. Idiopathic means absence of infection or any other known causes of eosinophilic lung diseases like any drug intake or any parasitic infestations, etc. No identifiable cause. And eosinophilias. Bilateral diffuse infiltrates on chest radiography. Lung eosinophilia with more than 25% eosinophils in bowel fluid. And hypoxemia. Acute pneumonia is severe, sometimes may present with severe respiratory failure. Hypoxemia with PaO2 less than 60, PaO2 by FiO2 is less than or equal to 300, and oxygen saturation on room air is less than 90%. SpO2 is 90%, less than 90%. Acute onset, no identifiable cause, bilateral infiltrates, hypoxemia with PaO2 less than 60, SpO2 less than 90, PaO2 by FiO2 less than or equal to 300, lung eosinophilia. Bowel eosinophil counts are more than 25%. Coming to clinical features. Clinical features include acute illness with fever, myalgia, cough, dyspnea, pleuritic chest pain, and hypoxemia. PaO2 less than 60 with diffuse bilateral crackles and auscultation, and develop overt respiratory failure requiring mechanical ventilation. And presents as ARDS. Mainly presents as ARDS like picture. Investigations include moderate leukocytosis. In this, blood eosinophilia is usually absent. Bowel eosinophil counts are raised. Striking eosinophilia is present in bowel fluid, that is 25 to 50%. And serum Ig levels may be moderately elevated. PFT shows restrictive ventilatory defect. In acute idiopathic interstitial pneumonias, there is no, usually there is no blood eosinophilia. Bowel eosinophil counts are raised. Radiology shows ARDS like picture with a ground glass or micronodular appearance developed within 48 hours of the symptoms onset. These are bilateral infiltrates. This is a defining feature of the disease. Bilateral ARDS like picture, acute eosinophilic pneumonias. This is the chest X-ray showing bilateral opacities with alveolar and interstitial opacities, minimal pleural effusion, CP blunting present, and curly B lines. Peripheral interstitial thickenings, curly B lines. Curly A lines are centrally located, radiating from the hyla. These are the interstitial edema. These are the lines due to interstitial edema. This is the CT scan of the patients with acute idiopathic interstitial pneumonias with airspace consolidations, ground glass haziness, interstitial septal thickening, interlobular septal thickening, and pleural effusions. Not clearly seen. Effusion is not clearly seen. Bilateral involvement, ground glass haziness, consolidations, interlobular thickening, interseptal thickening. Coming to the treatment of acute interstitial pneumonia. Acute eosinophilic pneumonias include initial doses of methylprednisolone typically range from 60 to 125 milligrams every 6th hourly until the resolution of respiratory failure symptoms. Then followed by 40 to 60 milligrams per day to be continued for 2 to 4 weeks with a subsequent slow taper over the next several weeks. Initial dose of 60 to 125 milligrams every 6th hourly until the resolution of symptoms, respiratory failure. then followed by first 40 to 60 milligrams per day over 2 to 4 weeks, with a subsequent slow taper over the next several weeks. Then coming to chronic eosinophilic pneumonias. This is chronic presentation. The peak incidence is 30 to 40 years of age group. Females are commonly affected. In that, 1/3 to half of the patients having history of atopy or allergic rhinitis and nasal polyps. 2/3 adult onset asthma, preceding or concurrent with the occurrence of chronic eosinophilic pneumonias. Chronic. Clinical features are mainly subacute presentation. The symptoms present for several months before the diagnosis. That is chronic. Commonly low-grade fevers, drenching night sweats, moderate weight loss, and cough. These are the vague symptoms. Low-grade fevers, drenching night sweats, moderate weight loss, cough. Patients ultimately develop progressive dyspnea, which may be associated with wheezing. In those patients with associated with asthma, wheezing is present. Less commonly, ARDS with severe hypoxemia. Rarely, arthralgia, skin rash, pericarditis, unexplained heart failure have been described. In this moderate leukocytosis present, almost all patients having leukocytosis, majority have peripheral blood eosinophilias. But in acute eosinophilic pneumonias, there is no rise of blood eosinophil counts. But in chronic eosinophilic pneumonias, majority have peripheral blood eosinophilia. Moderate normocytic normochromic anemia and thrombocytosis may be present. ESR is typically elevated. IgE levels are also elevated in up to 50% of the cases. And bowel fluid also shows rise in eosinophil counts, almost accounting for 40% of the WBCs, increased bowel eosinophil count. In acute eosinophilic pneumonia, only rise in bowel eosinophil count, striking eosinophilia and bowel fluid only. But in chronic eosinophilic pneumonia, peripheral blood eosinophilia as well as rise in bowel eosinophil counts. Blood and sputum culture routinely fail to identify an infectious etiology in this patient. This is also idiopathic. Radiographic features are peripherally based, progressive dense infiltrates with ill-defined margins. These are also bilateral locations located in mid to upper lung zones. Chronic eosinophilia is involvement of upper and mid lung zones, bilateral involvement, peripheral involvement. Frequently non-segmental or subsegmental or lobar in distribution, subpleural, opposite to the pleura, and may mimic loculated pleural efflux. Main characteristic is photographic negative of pulmonary edema appearance. Chronic eosinophilic pneumonia striking feature is photographic negative of pulmonary edema appearance. These are non-migratory infiltrates. Where we see migratory infiltrates, Loeffler syndrome. Rapid resolution of infiltrates occur following the corticosteroid treatment with recurrences in identical locations. CT features. Radiological features. What are the radiological features? Bilateral opacities, upper and mid zones, photographic negative of pulmonary edema appearance. CT scan shows peripheral opacities, ground glass haziness, and septal thickening. Peripheral, bilateral, ground glass appearance with septal thickening. Diagnosis is based on clinical, radiological findings, and BAL findings, and on the inability to document pulmonary or systemic infection. The transbronchial biopsy usually performed to rule out the other diagnostic entities. In most reported series, open lung biopsy has been required only rarely to establish the diagnosis. Because of the rapid and dramatic responsiveness of chronic eosinophilic pneumonia to steroid treatment, therapeutic trial of steroids is often useful in establishing the diagnosis. Failure to document the improvement, rapid clinical improvement, should alert the clinician to consider other diagnosis. What are the differential diagnosis of chronic eosinophilic pneumonias? Infections like tubercular infections, fungal diseases like cryptococcosis, sarcoidosis, Loeffler syndrome. Loeffler's is migratory. Chronic eosinophilic pneumonias are non-migratory infiltrates. Sarcoidosis also bilateral, mainly hilar adenopathies. Desquamative interstitial pneumonia, bronchiolitis obliterans organizing pneumonia, chronic hypersensitivity pneumonitis. This is also involvement of upper and mid lung zones. Eosinophilic granulomas. These are the some differential diagnosis of chronic eosinophilic pneumonias. What is the treatment of chronic eosinophilic pneumonia? Mainstay of treatment is, main modality of treatment is corticosteroids, acute and chronic eosinophilic pneumonias. The recommended regimen is 40 to 60 milligrams of prednisolone per day until the 2 weeks after the resolution of symptoms and chest X-ray abnormalities. The dose of prednisolone can then be tapered slowly. Maintained, the treatment usually maintained for at least 3 months and optimally for 6 to 9 months. Long duration of treatment is required for chronic eosinophilic pneumonias, 40 to 60 milligrams per day prednisolone. For acute eosinophilic pneumonias, methylprednisolone 60 to 125 milligrams until the resolution of acute symptoms every 6 hourly, followed by tapered dose 40 to 60 milligrams, followed by tapered. Then coming to Church-Strauss syndrome, that is allergic granulomatosis and angiitis. In 1951, Church and Strauss, two scientists, first described the histopathology and clinical features of this syndrome. They reported a form of Church-Strauss syndrome is mainly vasculitis. It is a necrotizing vasculitis in several organs associated with eosinophilic tissue inflammation and extravascular granulomas. Necrotizing vasculitis, eosinophilic tissue inflammation, and extravascular granulomas occurring in asthmatics with associated fever and peripheral hypereosinophilia. It is an uncommon systemic disease and typically affects multiple organ systems. It can affect multi-organ system. 10% of the patients with vasculitis almost prove to have Church-Strauss syndrome. Increased incidence is seen among the asthmatics. It can there is no clear gender predominance. It can affect any age group, but most commonly affects 30 to 50 years. In case of women, it is commonly observed in pregnancy. Subacute onset. Mainly, Church and Strauss identified the disease having components of asthma, necrotizing vasculitis of small and medium arteries and veins, eosinophilic infiltration around the involved vessels and tissues, extravascular granulomas, fibrinoid necrosis of the involved tissues. These are the 5 components of the Church-Strauss syndrome: asthma, necrotizing vasculitis, eosinophilic infiltration, extravascular granulomas, and fibrinoid necrosis of the involved tissues. What are the respiratory manifestations of the Church-Strauss syndrome? It is mainly an upper airway allergic disease, so sinusitis, rhinitis, and polyposis is seen in 75 to 85% of the patients, and also mainly associated with asthmatics. The upper airway disease usually are long-standing and often require steroid therapy in asthmatics to control the symptoms. Sometimes recurrent infections leading to bronchiectasis. It is also a Loeffler-like syndrome with eosinophilic infiltration of lung parenchyma is seen in 38 to 40% of the patients. These patients may develop dyspnea, cough, and wheezing. PFT of Church-Strauss syndrome shows obstructive ventilatory defect. The main system involved is cardiac, followed by CNS, followed by renal, later GIT. It is a multi-system involvement disorder, but not common. What are the investigations of Church-Strauss syndrome? CBP shows peripheral blood eosinophilia, rise in total IgE levels, anemia, ESR also elevated. Mainly P-ANCA is positive. P type of antinuclear cytoplasmic antibodies are positive in case of Chestrow syndrome in 70 to 75% of the patients. This is the diagnostic test. Pleural fluid present, if present, it reveals an acidotic eosinophilic extrait with low glucose levels. Some pleural biopsy shows chronic pleuritis with eosinophilic infiltration. Ball fluid also shows increased percentage of eosinophil levels. Coming to radiological findings of Chestrow syndrome, this is also migratory infiltrates, transient migratory, non-lobar, non-segmented, often peripheral pulmonary infiltrates with no regional predilection. Nodular lesions, interstitial lung disease, hilar adenopathy are less common. Chest radiography may occasionally be normal. HRCT findings. I show it to you. These are the chest X-ray findings. Transient migratory, non-lobar, non-segmental, peripheral opacities. These are the chest X-ray findings. CT finding shows scattered patchy opacities, peripherally located, ground glass haziness, bilateral pleural effusions, and sometimes pericardial effusion also may present. Septal thickening also present. Open lung biopsy is the gold standard site for tissue biopsy. Transbronchial biopsy may reveal the diagnosis if there is alveolar involvement, but it is often non-diagnostic. What are the differential diagnoses of Chestrow syndrome? Chestrow is in vasculitis. So polyarteritis nodosa is also vascular disease of major vessels. Microscopic polyangiitis, Wegener's granulomatosis, all these are vascular diseases. Chronic eosinophilic pneumonias, ABPA, idiopathic hypereosinophilic syndrome, Loeffler syndrome. Some 30 to 40% of the members present as Loeffler syndrome. Presents like asthma, fungal or parasitic infections, drug-induced vasculitis, sarcoidosis, and Hodgkin's lymphoma. Coming to the treatment of Chestrow syndrome. Mainly steroids are the first line of therapy. Prednisolone of 0.5 to 1.5 milligram per kg per day. That is 60 milligram per day in adults for 6 to 12 weeks to eliminate the constitutional symptoms. Then followed by low dose prednisolone is often given every day or every other day up to 1 year. Treatment with cytotoxic immunosuppressive agents such as azathioprine, cyclophosphamide, high-dose methylprednisolone, or chlorambucil may prove effective. These can also be used. These should be considered in patients whose condition fails to improve with steroid treatment or poor prognostic features including cardiac or GI involvement, renal insufficiency, or proteinuria greater than 1 gram per day. If the patient fails to improve with steroid treatment, then only consider cytotoxic immunosuppressive agents. Chlorambucil, okay, cyclophosphamide 2 milligram per kg per day orally or 0.6 gram per meter square IV per month may be given concurrently with corticosteroids. Interferon alpha has led to improvement in pulmonary function tests. Plasma exchange may be a successful adjunctive treatment, but beta blockers should be avoided in Chestrow syndrome related to hypertension, owing to the risk of bronchospasm and congestive heart failure. So beta blocker should be avoided because of risk of bronchospasm in asthmatics. Coming to idiopathic hypereosinophilic syndrome. This is the last one. Idiopathic hypereosinophilic syndrome. Hypereosinophil means eosinophil count is very much elevated. This includes several names like eosinophilic pneumonia, Loeffler's fibroblastic endocarditis, or disseminated eosinophilic cardiovascular disease. This is also known as eosinophilic leukemias. Loeffler's fibroblastic endocarditis, disseminated eosinophilic cardiovascular disease. In 1975, Cusick and colleagues revised the definition of idiopathic hypereosinophilic syndrome to include only cases in which no other causes of hypereosinophilia could be found. Idiopathic means no other identifiable etiology. What are the clinical features of idiopathic hypereosinophilic syndrome? It is a wide range of disease severity. It predominantly affects the age group of 20 to 50 years. The clinical features varies from mild symptoms to minimal involvement of non-critical organ to life-threatening multi-organ dysfunction. Often non-specific include weakness, fatigue, low-grade fevers, myalgias, cough, angioedema, rash, retinal lesions, and dyspnea. Virtually every organ system can be involved. It is also a multi-system involvement disorder. Chestrow syndrome involves multi-organs. Idiopathic hypereosinophilic syndrome also involvement of multi-organic system. Cough is predominantly nocturnal, either non-productive or productive of small quantities of non-purulent sputum. Mainly vague symptoms, non-specific symptoms, and nocturnal cough. Involvement of multiple organ systems. Wheezing and dyspnea are also common without the evidence of airflow obstruction and spirometry. Commonly, wheezing is seen in obstructive airway disease, but in PFT shows normal spirometry. There is no obstructive evidence. Pulmonary hypertension, ARDS, and pleural effusions have been reported. Chest X-ray shows transient focal or diffuse pulmonary infiltrates with no predilection for any particular distribution. These are the multiple organ systems involvement in idiopathic hypereosinophilic syndromes. Hematological involvement shows eosinophilias, anemia, thrombocytosis or thrombopenia, lymphadenopathy. Cardiovascular system shows endomyocardial damage or necrosis, intramural thrombi, endomyocardial fibrosis, congestive heart failure. Cutaneous manifestations include urticaria, angioedema, erythematous purpuric papules and nodules. Neurological involvement includes primary generalized central nervous system dysfunction, peripheral neuropathy, thromboembolic neurological phenomena. And pulmonary manifestations include non-productive cough, nocturnal cough, non-specific infiltrates, pulmonary fibrosis, splenomegaly, hypersplenism, chronic active hepatitis, hepatic vein obstruction, Budd-Chiari syndrome, esophagitis, gastroenteritis, colitis, choroidal abnormalities. This is the multi-system involvement in idiopathic hypereosinophilic syndromes. Laboratory findings include elevated total IgE levels, hypergamma-globulinias, circulating immune complexes, ESR is elevated, elevated serum B12 and leukocyte alkaline phosphatase levels, fungal and parasitic serologies, as well as no identifiable cause. So there is no fungal and parasitic serologies as well as aspirates of body fluids for ova and parasites are negative. The diagnostic criteria for idiopathic hypereosinophilic syndrome include a rise in absolute eosinophil count of greater than 1500 per cubic millimeter is present for more than 6 months. Chronic duration of rising eosinophil counts of more than 1500 for more than 6 months. And there is no identifiable etiology for eosinophilia is present. Patients must have signs and symptoms of multi-organ involvement, multi-organ system involvement disorder. Peripheral leukocyte count is typically elevated to above 10,000. The predominance of eosinophils. What are the differential diagnoses of parasitic infection? Differential diagnosis of idiopathic hypereosinophilic pneumonia. Eosinophilic pneumonias are parasitic infections, acute eosinophilic pneumonias, Church-Strauss syndrome. Those are already previously discussed, or all are differential diagnosis for idiopathic hypereosinophilic pneumonias. Tubercular or fungal infection, allergic or autoimmune diseases, chronic eosinophilic pneumonias, acute or chronic eosinophilic pneumonias, tropical pulmonary eosinophilias, and other lymphoproliferative disorders. Then coming to treatment of idiopathic hypereosinophilic pneumonias, hypereosinophilic syndrome. Currently, there are no recommendations for treating asymptomatic patients with hypereosinophilia. There is no treatment for asymptomatic patients. Symptomatic patients with serum troponin levels, monitor serum troponin levels for every 3 to 6 months, and echo and pulmonary function tests every 6 to 12 months. Glucocorticoids are the first line therapy in all patients without FIP1L1 PDGFRA mutation, platelet derived growth factor A mutation. Without these mutations, glucocorticoids are the first line of therapy. With these mutations, imatinib is the mainstay of therapy. And hydroxyurea of 0.5 to 1.5 gram per day may be added if there is evidence of further disease progression, with the aim of reducing the total leukocyte count to 5,000 to 10,000. A high dose of imatinib is the treatment of choice if first and second line drugs fails. First line therapy is corticosteroids. Second is hydroxyurea if added, if any disease progression. If these two fails, then give imatinib. Vincristine may be used as a chemotherapeutic agent in patients with extremely high total leukocyte count. Vincristine, etoposide and chlorambucil are the effective alternative for cases refractory to standard treatment with steroids. And cyclosporin may also be used in some cases. Interferon alpha should be tried as a second line agent among the patients with idiopathic hypereosinophilic syndrome who fail to respond to corticosteroid treatment. A humanized anti-IL-5 monoclonal antibody, that is mepolizumab, and an anti-CD52 antibody, altizumab, have been shown to control the symptoms as well as eosinophilia. This is the common approach for the pulmonary infiltrates with eosinophilic pneumonias, with eosinophilias. Radiologically, if we take an X-ray, radiologically, three types we can see: hilar adenopathy or hilar fullness, parenchymal infiltrates, or pleural effusions. If hilar adenopathy is observed, if it is unilateral or bilateral. Unilateral hilar adenopathy is seen in tuberculosis, lymphoma, coccidiomycosis. Bilateral adenopathy is seen in brucellosis, sarcoidosis, lymphomas, and in cases of schistosomiasis also. Coming to parenchymal infiltrates, whether they are nodular or miliary. Miliary mottling seen in tropical eosinophilias, tuberculosis, coccidiomycosis. Nodular infiltrates, whether they are single or multiple. Single infiltrates seen in hydatid disease and carcinomas. Multiple nodular infiltrates, parenchymal infiltrates seen in hydatid disease and metastatic lung disease. And also patchy infiltrates. Nodular, patchy, miliary. Patchy infiltrates, localized patchy allergic bronchopulmonary aspergillosis, Loeffler syndrome, strongyloidosis, ascaris, trichinosis. Diffuse patchy infiltrates are seen in chronic eosinophilic pneumonias, BOOP, bronchiolitis obliterans organizing pneumonias, melioidosis, and brucellosis. associated with pleural effusion seen in tropical eosinophilias, tuberculosis, coccidioidomycosis. Coming to rise in IgE levels, extremely high rise, that is more than 1000 international units per international units, is seen in ABPA, allergic bronchopulmonary aspergillosis, in some cases of tropical pulmonary eosinophilias, in Church-Ross syndrome. Mainly ABPA, extremely high IgE levels. Let us summarize. These are the various eosinophilic pneumonias we discussed already. Loeffler, acute eosinophilic pneumonia, tropical pulmonary eosinophilia, chronic eosinophilic pneumonia, ABPA, Church-Ross syndrome, and idiopathic hypereosinophilic syndrome. Loeffler's acute eosinophilic pneumonias are acute presentations. Tropical pulmonary also acute. The remaining are subacute to chronic. Blood eosinophilia is rise in all except in acute eosinophilic pneumonias. It's not common in acute eosinophilic pneumonia. Mainly BAL eosinophil counts are raised in acute eosinophilic pneumonia. Striking eosinophils in BAL fluid in acute. The remaining all are having blood eosinophilias. And also BAL eosinophil counts are striking rise in idiopathic hypereosinophilic syndromes and also in chronic eosinophilic pneumonias. Only absent, blood eosinophilia is absent in acute eosinophilic pneumonias. All these are having sputum eosinophilia and elevated serum IgE levels. These are markedly elevated in ABPA. What is the etiological agent? For Loeffler syndrome, Ascaris lumbricoides larva is the infectious agent, etiological agent. Acute eosinophilic pneumonias are idiopathic, causes unknown. For tropical pulmonary eosinophilias are due to worm infestations, filarial worm infestations. Coming to chronic eosinophilic pneumonias are also unknown etiology. ABPA is due to fungal hypersensitivity reaction. Church-Ross syndrome and idiopathic hypereosinophilic pneumonias are unknown etiology. Coming to the radiological findings, Loeffler's migratory infiltrates, patchy, peripheral, unilateral or bilateral consolidations, ground glass usually transient, migratory. Acute eosinophilic pneumonias, bilateral ground glass appearances, alveolar or interstitial infiltrates. Tropical pulmonary eosinophilias are diffuse radiculonodular infiltrates. Coming to chronic eosinophilic pneumonias are predominantly peripheral, bilateral ground glass appearance and photographic negative of pulmonary edema. Chronic eosinophilic pneumonia is mainly characteristic of photographic negative of pulmonary edema appearance. ABPA, upper lobe predominant central bronchiectasis. With Church-Ross syndrome also transient, migratory, peripheral. All the eosinophilic pneumonias infiltrates are peripheral, patchy, usually bilateral. Transient, migratory, peripheral, rarely diffuse, patchy, peribronchial and septal thickening, patchy parenchymal, ground glass appearance or consolidation. In idiopathic hypereosinophilic pneumonias, transient, focal, diffuse. Vasculitis is mainly Church-Ross syndrome. Church-Ross is vasculitic disorder. And extrapulmonary manifestations. Involvement of multi-organ system is common in Church-Ross syndrome and idiopathic hypereosinophilic syndrome. The main modality of treatment is for Loeffler's. It is due to Ascaris larva, parasitic infestation, mebendazole. And removal of the drug or toxin exposure are steroids. Acute eosinophilic pneumonia's main modality of treatment is steroids. Tropical pulmonary eosinophilia mainly due to microfilarial larva. So diethyl carbamazine is the main modality of treatment. For chronic eosinophilic pneumonia, steroids, ABPA steroids with bronchodilators, antibiotics, and antifungals. For chest rose syndrome, corticosteroids and other immunosuppressive agents. For idiopathic hypereosinophilic syndrome, corticosteroids and immunosuppressants. For chronic or recurrent disease, which one is chronic? Chronic eosinophilic pneumonia. Recurrence is common in ABPA. Chronic and idiopathic hypereosinophilic syndrome is also chronic. Recurrences are infrequent in tropical pulmonary eosinophilias and chest rose syndrome after treatment. Only recurrences common in chronic eosinophilic pneumonias, ABPA, idiopathic hypereosinophilic syndrome. Thank you.